Quilty is brought to you by
APQS, handcrafted quilting machines. Aurifil. Aurifil Italian thread, perfectly suited for all your quilting projects. Baby Lock, for the love of sewing.
Havels Sewing. When you need to cut it close, choose Havels.
Moda. Make something quilty with Moda fabrics.
How you doing, everybody out there in Quilty land? We are here to talk about quilting today with Ebony Love, who, I don't know, I feel like you're kind of an expert. Do you feel like an expert?
You know, I'm always learning, so I have a hard time calling myself an expert, but I'll let everybody else call me the expert.
Yeah, and she's written books, and you're a columnist, and there's all kinds of things that make you really know what you're talking about. And you're going to talk to us today about stippling,
Yes.
about what it is. Oh my gosh, it's so many things. Can you define what stippling is when you're talking about quilting?
Yes, so stippling is really just your very basic meandering stitch. And we define stippling essentially as lines that do not cross. So it's just meandering around the quilt and making sure that you're not crossing your lines. And there's so many different things that we can define as stippling, and we'll talk about all of those things during the episode.
I'm in.
Awesome.
Let's do this. Okay, so don't cross the streams. That's the first lesson. So that is, when I think of stippling, that is what I think of first.
And what I have actually found is that there's no right way to stipple. Everyone actually develops their own style of stippling.
Like a fingerprint.
It is like a fingerprint. And as I was actually doing my stipple sampler here, it was really hard for me to try to do other styles of stippling or to try to imitate someone else's way of stippling.
Yeah.
I find that mine is very worm-like. It's very, I'm always curving during the stippling process. So this is your basic stippling. And what I did here in this sampler is I actually showed just some different density of stippling, because that's one way that you can change your stippling stitch is to change the density of it. And so this is probably the most common density for me that I find for my stippling.
It's like the medium.
It's like a medium stipple. You can of course go smaller.
That's really small.
Which this is really small. That's actually not the smallest I've ever stippled.
Whoa.
Though. I have.
Holy cats.
This is micro stippling.
Ebony, Love.
Isn't that super tiny?
Get out. Just get out. Get out of town. Go out the door and get out of town. That's crazy. That's really small.
So yeah, that's really small. And then as we go along here.
This looks like coral. It's really cool.
Yeah.
With like a seafaring quilt, a seafaring voyage.
Yeah, this is really great for very dense backgrounds. So if you're trying to, if you have an applique that you're trying to sort of make pop out of the background, if you quilt it really densely with stippling around it, it really makes the applique
Pop up. Cool.
And then as we go along here, I just went bigger and bigger.
Now we're getting into like camouflage territory.
Yeah,
Right? It looks like camouflage. Whoa.
Really big.
This is like the Great Barrier Reef.
Yeah, and so I actually encourage people to make their own stippling sampler, so that you can sort of refer back to your own sample for the different sizes of stippling that you do.
It's a really good idea. I love quilting. I love quilting the quilt now.
Quilting's so awesome.
I resisted for a long time. I was like, I'm a topper. Meh. I just make tops. I'm a designer. Meh. But then I stopped making that cat noise, and I also started quilting more. And I really love it.
Meow.
Meow. Okay, so how about this? This is also stippling.
Yes, this is also stippling. And so one of the things that, and you know, what we talked about is stippling is really where you're not crossing over your lines, but there are some variants where you do cross over the lines. But this is an echo stipple.
So cool.
And how this was formed, and actually I can just do, we might want to do.
I can start brandishing that
Brandishing
pin
the pin. And so somebody might ask, how do you actually stipple?
Yeah.
We're not stitching on the machine today, but I can just quickly kind of show how a stipple or a meander forms.
Like the marker is your needle right now.
Yeah, the marker is my needle. And this is a really familiar movement for me because this is like quilting on my long arm where the machine is moving. But you're really just going around, filling in, and you're trying to keep a consistent distance so that you're filling in the space sort of consistently. So that would be sort of how you stipple, and it's just, you're just filling in the space.
Cool.
This stipple is, as I mentioned, this is an echo stipple, and how that's done is you're basically stitching a line, and then you're echoing the line. And you can echo the line, and you can come out and form another one and echo it back and echo it back. So you're just sort of echoing it here, and I've got another line, and then I can echo it back. You probably don't want them to touch. But this is all sort of practice. And then you do something like that, and then that just kind of fills the space in this kind of wormy way.
Yeah. And what you're doing there, that's not just for the show. That's like the tip that I've always heard is doodle all the time.
Yes.
On your napkin and, on your whatever, your ticket stub. I mean, just wherever you're on your desk pad, doodle. Doodling is what quilting is, free motion like this.
Yeah. And it really helps, you hear muscle memory. That's where you're training your body for the stitch so that it comes a little bit more naturally as you're going.
Totally.
And I actually some people use pencils, some people use pens. I like to use these big fat markers because I like filling pages really fast.
Sure.
And so it just takes less time to fill a page with a fat marker, and it really looks like I've accomplished something that day.
Cool. So let's move along with the sample before we are out of time, which is always the trouble.
Always the trouble.
I love this ribbony thing.
Yes,
this is
a
nice.
ribbon.
And you did cross the streams there.
And I did cross the stream, and it's basically you stipple out, and you want to leave yourself enough room so that you can follow the line back.
Yeah, I love that.
This is an angled stipple, and so usually stipples are very curved. This is stopping at a point and then coming off to another direction.
And you said that the tip here is you have to absolutely come to a full stop. Otherwise, you get kind of a curved edge, which might be fine if that's what you want, but if it isn't, don't.
Yeah, and this is something, I'm not going to pull this out.
Yeah.
But I have to make a conscious effort to come to a full stop before going into another direction.
Like a stop sign at a four-way intersection. Come to a full stop.
Full stop. Look both ways. Okay, you might want to stop that.
Right. This is like water. Yeah.
So this is water. So this is more of a horizontal, moving where you're filling the space horizontally. You can throw a couple of spirals in there to help you get back into another direction. You can do it vertically. You can do the same stipple horizontally, but again, come to a stop before you go back in the other direction.
Spikier.
Little spikier. This was me just messing around.
Right.
This is sort of a more dense water stipple, sort of in that direction. It kind of, I don't know what it kind of looks like, but you can mix stuff up as you go along too.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, some of it looked like wood grain, that's a really popular design too for the modern quilters.
Yeah, and this is just stippling the way out.
It's totally awesome. So this is stippling. This is beautiful sample. Thank you for bringing this in. Yeah, I mean, just give it a shot and definitely make a sample sandwich first before you start tackling or attacking your quilt, and get that muscle memory going and get the rhythm that you have in your body, in your body in practice.
Yeah.
And then just do it. Just do it.
And
do
have
it on
fun.
a baby quilt. Yeah, babies don't care. They're like, stippling? I think I need to be having a bottle. So cool. Thanks for coming on the show, Eb.
Thanks for having me, Mary.
Awesome. Bye.
Quilty is brought to you by
APQS, handcrafted quilting machines. Aurifil Italian thread, perfectly suited for all your quilting projects. Baby Lock, for the love of sewing.
Havel's Sewing. When you need to cut it close, choose Havel's.
Moda, make something quilty with Moda fabrics.